Okay, small caveat. I actually don't think there is a best travel camera. I think it's kind of whatever camera you prefer, whatever camera you have on you, whatever camera you like using. However, for the sake of the title, I thought I'd stick with the best film travel camera. Um, Personally, I've just picked up this new camera, which I do think is awesome. And for my kind of traveling at the moment, where I'm usually just going to cities because I'm living in Europe and trying to see quite a few of them, this camera kind of does it all. It is the Voigtlander Bessa L. It is really cheap. I think this was £340 equivalent, and it's incredibly wide. It's got this Voigtlander 15mm f4.5 lens, which is pretty sharp and, yeah, as I said, incredibly wide. Now, it's not without its downfalls, which I'll go through later in the video, and you'll see later in the video. But I do think, at the moment, for me, this is the best travel camera out there. It's got a really easy to read dial for over or underexposure. Again, like I said, the super wide lens, so indoor shots, awesome. Capture loads, and you don't really need to look through the viewfinder because it is so wide. You can just kind of imagine that pretty much everything you can see is in view. So it doesn't really need one to go through the lens, but it's external. You can kind of line it up just a bit higher, almost like a rangefinder. It's quick firing. I can shoot it up to 0.02 of a second, and it's got a 125 flash sync speed, which I think I'll try soon. It's also got an ISO dial here, up to 1600. So that's probably the max film I'd shoot anyway. Black and white 400 speed, push 2 stops, which you can see I did in the video and made a mistake. And that's pretty much it. It's really light. It's about 400 grams, which is a lot lighter than my Nikon, which I used to take. You can shoot it at really slow speeds. I shot it at 1/8 of a second, and it's relatively sharp at that speed. 4.5 super sharp still, and everything's in focus always pretty much, because the minimum focus distance is 2 meters anyway, or maximum focus distance, and minimum is 0.3 meters. So yeah, it's a really great camera with self-timer as well. So if you're interested in picking up a pretty cheap film camera with a great lens and really light, I'd go with this one. So have a look at the quick trip to Romania, where we're there for a long weekend over Halloween, and Dracula's castle, and you'll see the images I took with this. So our trip to Brasov, which is Transylvania, was a 14-hour one in this little train compartment, and you can see already how useful that super wide is for indoor shots. I couldn't even get that on my wide angle on my phone really very well. And the train station, all a bit underexposed, but I still think they came out not too bad, to be honest. The start of our 14-hour train journey, we decided to make our Halloween costumes for the Halloween party that was happening at Dracula's castle, and also watch the start of the film Dracula, which I must say was pretty disappointing and weird as hell. I did not expect it to be like that. Waking up, it was super foggy, which added to the Halloween atmosphere. I took one quick shot inside and one quick shot while we're moving, very slowly, of that building. And as you can see, super foggy, and quite a nice entrance to Brasov. Arriving at the train station, I took one quick shot indoors of it. Wasn't great, to be honest, but nice to use that 500T inside a bit before most of these shots were going to be taken outside. We arrived at about 9 AM, so way before check-in, and we had all our bags with us, which was pretty annoying, but oh well. Shot some film outside the specialty coffee shop, where we had a quick coffee and tried to decide what to do for the next 5 hours or so while we waited to check in. This was the outside of the Black Church, which we did go see later on, and the inside, and it was pretty nice. I loved the Brasov sign as well. That is the problem with the 15mm. It didn't come out because it's so far away, but it's like a Hollywood sign saying Brasov. There's also some strange green lines in these images. I think it's just from the roll of film. And I also am not too sure where this image I took went, to be honest. Tried to kill more time with a hot chocolate and then went to the square, where it's starting to get pretty busy. I think most people come for Halloween. And again, that green line. But that's the first image where you can see one of my few problems with the lens. It's so wide, I often get my finger in there, which is 100% my fault, so I need to get better at that. Tried to kill more time in the most British way possible, going for a beer on holiday. Of course I went for a lager, and we weren't too far away from checking at this point. And finishing my 500 T-roll, I decided to swap for some Delta 400. I decided to push it 2 stops, so to 1600, and I decided to stupidly not tell the lab to push it 2 stops, so it came back pretty underdeveloped, which completely my fault. Having a pretty bad sleep on the train because it's pretty bumpy, we decided to get another coffee just before check-in as we're going to the party tonight. And here's one of the very few, not really usable images, but images that came out on the black and white roll. So finally made it to the Airbnb, which I'll take you on a little tour of now. Place is pretty cool. This might be getting a photo, especially with the light. Shouldn't have got its own photo. Coming through. And the bedroom, also pretty awesome. Classic European, Central European warmer thing, fireplace thing, I don't know. After picking up a couple of beers, got a taxi and made our way over to Dracula's castle. The drive over was spectacular and was really beautiful. Kind of wish we had a car for the weekend just so we could drive around and take a few photos. It really does look like the online pictures. Obviously I do no justice here with the underdeveloped roll and driving in a car. They were never going to come out great, to be honest. We arrived just as Dracula's castle closed, but no worries, that's where the party was later in the day. And this was the outside of Dracula's castle area, which was pretty disappointing and reminded me a bit of Niagara Falls. This potentially is the most disappointing photo of the trip. Again, because I didn't ask the lab to push it 2 stops, but I'm glad I managed to get this on video. It's an absolutely beautiful place. It was a friend's Airbnb who a few were staying at, and we're having some pre-drinks at before the party. But that would have made an absolute great image. Maybe not on the 15mm super wide, but on a bit of a tighter focal length anyway. A few came out of the little Airbnb cat, and this is probably the best one from the black and whites, but still not particularly great. After queuing for far too long and them letting in people without tickets to increase the sales there first, we managed to get in to the castle where we had a quick tour and then went to the party dressed as Sims. Thank God we came dressed as Sims as well, because some people didn't dress up at all. Well, quite a few. So anyone in those extra outfits kind of stood out a bit too much, which was pretty surprising because I expected some great costumes. The next morning, waking up pretty hungover, I walked around the city, got myself a quick specialty coffee, which I love, and then tried to recover from my hangover by getting some more fresh air around the city. Took a few photos, wasn't feeling too great. Then picked up Piper, who recovered a little bit later than me in the day, and we went to see the Black Church again from the outside and tried to decide what to do with the day, as we weren't feeling the most active or adventurous at this point. So we decided to make our way slowly a bit more around the city, a little bit more exploring, and to the park, which is pretty beautiful in the middle of the city. Now for the bad points of this camera. I'm pretty sure it's not weather sealed. So I've got this leather case, which is pretty good, and I'll keep it in there and then take it out only if the weather's fine or very short periods in the rain. Its maximum aperture is 4.5, so not the best, which is a bit of a shame also. And the super wide, actually you'll see as well, as you've seen, can get my fingers in it, and because I'm not looking through the lens, I'm looking through this little viewfinder. Yeah, sometimes it's easy to get your fingers in it. Those are the main downfalls, I would say. I wouldn't really want to choose another lens on this other than this as well, because if I had a 50mm, let's say with a f1.4, would not be able to hit focus pretty much most of the time because I'm not looking through the actual lens, just having the camera body there. So for me, this is kind of a fixed lens camera, which works for what I'm enjoying it for at the moment. But it would be nice to have the option to have a little rangefinder here. So maybe in the future I'll upgrade to a better R, but pretty happy with this at the moment. And those are the main downsides, which might be a big turn off for you. But personally, I think for what I'm using it at the moment, it's perfect. And super light, super easy, and really enjoyable. So pick yourself up one. So I switched back to some more 500T, and I really like the film. It's really flexible, can shoot it at pretty dim lights, and it also produces some really flat tones, so it can be what you want. So really punchy or really just flat and desaturated. As you saw from both of those images, one in the park and then one of this RO Palace, which isn't much of a palace. I didn't do too much to the film, to be honest. I had a little bit of clarity, and then I kind of increased the temperature slightly just because it's for tungsten and I was shooting a lot of it in daylight, so if it's a daylight image I changed it to be slightly warmer and then added a tiny bit of vibrance, and it produced some great results, which is what you can see here from the outside. These colourful parts of the fruit, the reds are punchy, but again it's what you want it to be, which is the great thing about this film. We made our way over to the lift to try catch sunset from the top of the hill, and as the clocks had changed we had to get there a little bit earlier than expected, but the colours are really great, and obviously it's autumn, so this one I really liked. This was taken on my Pentax 6.7, you can see from the bokeh in the background. It was not the super wide and the angle, but I really liked that image, and I only shot one roll on that, and most of my images just came from my Bessa L, which I really enjoyed using. Again, another Pentax shot. And while we're there, apparently Elon Musk was hosting a party at Dracula Castle the night after, although it wasn't actually him, and it ended up being some, I think, founders of PayPal. Another Pentax shot. It was shot using Ectar 100, and you can see with the Pentax it is a lot sharper image, just because it's a way bigger negative, to be honest. This might be my favourite shot from the Helios Super Wide. You can see the whole sign of Brasov there, and I think it looks awesome. I think it looks really cinematic, and that combination of the super wide lens and the 500T really lends itself to that film feel. Another reason I absolutely adore this lens and this camera combo is because it's so candid. You can just get all these shots super fast, super easily, and it's super wide, so you get so much detail and so much of the background in, and it makes for a really nice travel camera. I think the memories from it are awesome, just because you can see everything. This one, obviously at bokeh, is shot on the Pentax 6.7. While the sun was setting, I decided to swap from my Pentax just because it had 100 speed film in, and I used my Bessa L obviously, and caught some super wide sunset images. Sun wasn't fully set because we didn't want to walk down the hill in the dark, so we didn't fully stay for the colours, but I think it would have been great. When we were walking down, we managed to catch a bit of it, but I still like these. The sun's nearly set, and I like that you can just see some of the mountain range with that contrasty light on it, and this pop of colour at the foreground. Another great part about that lens is the massive skies that you can see. Now these Pentax images, one was shot at this time, but it only incorporated the sky, and the other two were shot about 10-15 minutes earlier, which is when the light was a bit stronger. But I really like them, and shooting that Pentax 6.7 is always awesome. Again, that lens, just awesome. Like, the sky looks incredible, but you can see a bit of distortion in the bottom corners of the houses. They look a little bit stretched, but nothing major, and I think it adds quite a nice character to the lens. So yeah, overall really happy with it. And this is one Pentax shot, I believe. Now I see my finger in one more shot, and this is just a walk down from the mountain, and as the weirdly branded Coca-Cola chairlifts past below and above us. Not entirely sure why this was Coca-Cola branded, but I think it worked. I liked how Ektar pulled out the reds. So next week I'll be showing you the Fuji Velvia 100 which I shot with it. However, this is the inside of the black church, and unfortunately they cannot develop the Fuji Velvia 100 as there's an E6 chemical shortage. So like and subscribe and tune in next week for the final part of another hike in Romania.